So let's begin with the Hasbro Velociraptor Blue from 2015. We can see he has some alright paint details, this mechanism to open his jaw, and he can move his limbs, and that's kind of all. Right next we have the Mattel Velociraptor Blue from Jurassic World Dominion with some amazing detail and painting compared to the Hasbro one. He can also move his limbs. He can open his jaw and rotate his head 360 degrees up and down. And here's Blue in his iconic pose. So overall the two Velociraptors are pretty good. Now moving to the next one is a pack of Godzilla figures. Starting off with the Mothra larva. Is pretty basic, nice paint and detail for a bootleg, and no articulation sadly, but that's alright. Moving to the next figure, also a bootleg from the same pack, Rainbow Mothra, with a nice painting and detail. The sculpt is also, I think it's from a Bandai creation, Rainbow Mothra. I'm not really sure. Not much to be said about this figure. It can move both of its arms, and that's kind of all. The next one is Anguirus from Godzilla Final Wars. Also, is the sculpt is basically a Bandai Monster Series figure, and can move all of his both of his legs and arms, his tail, and that's kind of all. Moving on to Rodan from Final Wars, with had this exact same fate as Anguirus. He can move both of his legs and also his neck, something that I did not mention. And he came with a fucking error. Coming up next, we have Kiryu from Godzilla against Mechagodzilla with nice painting, detailing, sculpting. The model is again from Bandai figure. He can move his arms, his torso, and his neck. Sadly, no articulation at the legs, and he can also move his tail. And that's kind of all. And the paint, I have to say it's alright. Now here we have Burning Godzilla. He's basically a Bandai creation Gojira with a black and golden painting. Yeah, that's all. He can move his arms and legs. Now we're talking. This is the Godzilla from Godzilla Final Wars, and he has a pretty good paint job except a bit for the eyes and the mouth, but it's alright for bootleg. I don't know, I think the sculpt was taken from one of those smaller Bandai figures. He also has articulation to limbs, and that's all. Also, I forgot to mention about one of my favorite King Ghidorah figures in my collection. The Game K King Ghidorah with an alright painting at the eyes, great painting over the body, with nice details. I don't know from where the sculpt was taken to. Probably some Bandai figure. He can move his legs. The wings are some kind of rubber or softer plastic. The same applies for the tails, which can be a bit separated. And you can move the heads, like, just rotating them, and that's all. Coming up next, here we have Gojira with some great painting and Bandai creation sculpt, great detail, love the eyes. It reminds me of GMK. He can move both of his legs and both of his arms, and not much to be said about the figure, pretty simplistic, and I like it. Coming up next, we have the Millennium Godzilla from Godzilla Millennium 2000 with a pretty good sculpting, details. Again, a Bandai figure with a smaller scale. He can move both of his arms, both of his legs, and alright detail and pretty good paint job. I like him, it's alright. Now we have probably the worst figure in here. This Space Godzilla. I don't know what is the sculpt based on. The detail is not alright. The paint job is meh, and he can move his arms in a strange way, and the same applies for the legs, and don't like him. Now we have Shin Godzilla with a pretty good detail, sculpt again taken from a Bandai figure probably. Can move both of his arms, both of his legs. Good paint job, I would say. A bit too much red on the chest, but it's alright figure, I like him. Coming up next, we have a Godzilla Earth or Godzilla Philius figure with nice detail and painting. He's again probably taken from a Bandai figure, the sculpt I mean. And came with both of his arms, both of his legs. So with other words, he's alright. I like him. Now coming up next is one of my favorite Godzillas, Godzilla 2014. With a great paint job, I would say, compared to other figures. He's simplistic. He can move both of his arms, both of his legs. Nothing too complicated. I have a complaint about the mouth and the eyes, but it's alright. And here we have another pack of bootlegs, with starting off with this King Ghidorah, which looks absolutely horrible. The detail aren't the most amazing ones, and the paint job is simplistic. He can move both of his wings, but they come off easily. It's stupid. His heads can swivel around, I would say, rotate. It's hard to rotate at first, but I think I break something in the figure. So die, motherfucker, die, motherfucker, die! Die, motherfucker, die, motherfucker, die! Guys, I think I just broke the fucking wall. Coming up as the next figure, we have this Godzilla, which looks absolutely horrible. Next we have Space Godzilla with which looks better than the other one. I love this paint more. He looks more realistic, but it's still bad. And here is my first and probably single custom that I have of a Godzilla figure. It was a Millennium Godzilla, exactly like the bigger one but smaller. I tried to make him a Kiryu. Now here we have another Godzilla 2014, which looks pretty nice. It's just a bigger figure but smaller scale with can move his limbs, and he has that paint job on his back. And now I have Godzilla Philius or Godzilla Earth again. Exactly same fate as Godzilla 2014. This guy can move his limbs, and that's all. Boring. Also, here is me demonstrating you can move his arms and legs. Coming up as the next figure, I have a smaller Shin Godzilla with better paint job and sculpt pretty similar. I mean, not similar, but it's alright, pretty good for a small bootleg. I like him. Probably better than the bigger one. Looks pretty dope, I would say. Now the next guy is again a Kiryu from Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. He can just move his arms, which are on a ball joint. I think they were supposed to go in more directions, but you cannot really do that. And because of the sculpt, of course, and the paint job is alright. The sculpt is pretty good. Detailing, pretty good. Now we have a Rodan, this time with no errors, and also no articulation. The paint job, sculpt, and detail are all of them are good. And that's all to be said about this figure. The next figure is this Mothra from 1992 or Tokyo SOS or Final Wars or I don't know. Paint job is good, no big details or I don't know, sculpt is alright. Moving on, we have a Gashapon style Aribunta, I don't know, an Ultraman Kaiju. I lost his tail, it's in a box, but I don't have the box here, so yeah, I pick up what remained of him. He doesn't have any serious articulation, you know, it's just a Gashapon bootleg with some pieces, that's all. Next we have a way more special figure, is actually Anguirus from 1955. Again a Gashapon style, because I had this 4-figure Gashapon style pack. And the color scheme is pretty good, the sculpting is good, the detailing is good. I know he's just stolen from Gashapon, but as a bootleg, this thing is pretty good. Also it hurts when you try to hold him because of his Carpatch. He can also move one of his arms because the other one is solid plastic, is part of the rest of the body. And he can move both of his legs harder. They can actually fall off easily, but you can put them back in. His tail has 2 points of articulation where you can swivel the tail. Pretty spiky. The same applies for the carapace. And as I said, he can also move his head, his neck, and his head. And here is a footage of me cutting down his carapace. And footage of me trying to hold a figure. The figure can also leave some traces on your fingers, but that's all. Next we have Gashapon Mechagodzilla from 1974. He is great. Probably one of the best figures that I have. Has amazing sculpting, detail, and the paint job is pretty good. It's chrome. You can actually move things around. You just swivel, rotate, and you can see. You can decapitate any part of him. But still move it like it's a smaller action figure. That does not apply for the tail too. You can also remove this part, his upper body, and then, I don't know, play with Mask Fanger and beat the shit out of Godzilla. Yeah, pretty cool. Now we have my favorite King Ghidorah out there from all of my King Ghidorahs. He has a great detail, the sculpting, the coloring, the golden, like Showa King Ghidorah. The eyes are alright, pretty good still. I love everything about this thing. It's great quality. You can also rotate their heads. You can move around a bit his jaw, and these are made of his wings are made of some kind of rubber, I would say, softer plastic. However, that does not apply for those spikes at the top, and the tail are made of some softer plastic. And that's pretty good too. Moving on, we have our first Jakks Pacific, actually the first official Godzilla figures I have in this. This is Godzilla 2019, normal one, with the you can move his limbs, you can move his tail, you can swivel it 2 points of articulation, not so complicated. The paint job is alright. Yeah, it's actually good, and the sculpt and detailing is also alright. Not my favorite, but it's pretty good figure, solid figure. Now we have this cool abomination. I don't know. This has good parts and really bad parts. Let's start with the good parts. I would say you can move both of his legs and tails partially. They have a hinge for the wings, which are hard plastic, and you can rotate, you can swivel the 3 heads. However, even though the paint detail and sculpt is pretty good, one of the heads can easily pop off and the wing is broken. Now we're seeing the first big figure of this. The Playmates Gigan Final Wars. He's not the greatest figure, but he's pretty good. He's a solid figure, partially. He has articulation. You can rotate his arms and legs a bit harder, but it's alright. Yeah, you can also swivel his tail around, but yeah, he does not stand so well. And now a solid entry, the NECA Burning Godzilla 1995, which looks amazing. He looks almost exactly like in the movie. You can see him from his toes to uh, actually you cannot see his face now, but you can see he actually glows. Those plastic translucent plastic parts can actually glow in the dark, of course, but light or light in the background. But yeah, good paint application, sculpt, detailing. It looks almost exactly like it's taken from the movie. You can see here his tail, which has articulation. I have to say that, but it limits the possibility because he has that. This part can break easily off if you're not careful. Has that wire, harder to move. And I don't really like that, but it's alright. Also, the tail is probably just stolen from the 1994 figure, but that's also alright for me. You can also rotate both of his legs, his toes, the articulation at the knees. Many possibilities of how to pose this figure on your shelf. Um, the I think the hands are the most poseable, or at least look like they're most poseable thing around here. You can also at the hands, here at the arms, you can remove some of his digits of his fingers, and the neck can also move. You can also move this part of the torso, and he's he has rubber dorsal plates. And here's some footage of me showing off the range of articulation of that. You can turn him 360 degrees and you can open his mouth and rotate his neck and his head like any NECA figure would have. Now, the NECA Shin Godzilla 2016. My first Godzilla figure ever, actually, this thing. And he has aged well, I would say. He has... This is not a reissue, keep that in mind. I got him in 2017 or something like that. Rubber dorsal plates, the tail is alright, could be way better, but it's alright. You can move his arm. You can see I lost one of his hands. It's alright. It's in one of the boxes. You can rotate his head, open his jaw, rotate his neck, 360 degrees. You can also articulation here at the legs, the toes and the knees, exactly like in the Burning Godzilla, with the great painting. Here's his mouth, and here his mouth. You can also see his chest and now his tail, which many people will say it's probably the worst NECA tail, probably one of the worst Godzilla action figure tails ever. But for me, it's pretty good compared to the NECA Burning Godzilla one, which is boring. You can have actually fun playing with this. However, the top is, for some reason, mine was never able to, move around. And you can move every single segment of his tail, and not many stuff to be said. However, the tail can easily pop off if you're not careful. And here's some footage showing how you can pose the tail. And mine is pretty stable, mainly. And here is a great pose for Shin Godzilla. Now we have this Transformers from Hasbro, which compared to other Hasbro Jurassic World figures that they have, I have also two Transformers figures from Hasbro. Bumblebee, which I don't know where he's, and this guy, which is still missing. He has a hinge at both of his wings. He can also rotate, has two heads on ball joints. He can reveal here on the third head, under his real head, move his legs, and those arms or other legs. And he also has some other articulation points, but they're not so important. And now here we have an abomination of a dinosaur. I don't know what dinosaur this is supposed to be. I think it's supposed to be a T-Rex because of course everybody loves T-Rexes. He can move his tail, his head, about 360 degrees. He can open his jaw and move all of his limbs. And if you're not careful, you can make him fall all apart. Also has some rubbery parts, the tail, some part of the arms. He has nice paint detail and sculpt for Kaiju. And here we have a 2018 or 2015, I don't really know, T-Rex from Jurassic World, from the Jurassic World series, actually Rexy of course. No articulation is, I got him when I went, he was on top of a cop, and I bought him when I went to see Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom back in 2018 when it was released. Has amazing sculpting, ninja, detail, anything you want, pretty damn good. However, here we have what I love to call a McDonald's toy. This is where Hasbro really fucked up things. What the hell is this? Is supposed to have some kind of battle damage, but they fucked it up. You can see he has an alright paint, I would say. I think the play feature, you can open his jaw this way and move his neck, his whole neck around. You can move his legs and his arms. You can see here the interior of his mouth is pretty detailed also. I think if they were able to make a realistic and accurate T-Rex that can also stand and not have these bullet holes, I think it would have been a good figure with those play features, but Hasbro does not know how to do that. And now that this video has come to an end finally, you might ask me, Zilla 2004, what are you gonna do with all of your figures? Sell them? Never! I'm gonna end my life.